G'day, it's Roger McDonald from rogermcdonald.net. I have with me here Eric Chan. How are you, Eric?
I'm good. How are you, Roger?
I'm really good, Eric, and thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed today. As part of this video series, I'm interviewing people who are innovators in the personal development industry in Australia and around the world, and I've seen Eric's activities on the internet, and I just think he's up to some pretty cool stuff, and you've got a really interesting niche. Eric, would you like to tell us about it?
Well, first off, thank you so much for inviting me to come onto your program. I really appreciate it, and I love what you're doing and just stepping out of the box and just living your dream and passion just like I am.
Yeah.
And what I do is actually pitching. I help people develop their pitching, conveying the message, utilizing stage time, because I'm sure you can agree, it's a real gift to be given stage time.
Yeah.
And people just don't utilize it as to the most effective way possible when they're given that opportunity, and I'm there to help them with that.
Outstanding. Yeah, I know. Often in networking, you get asked to do a 30-second pitch or 30-second talk about yourself for a minute or 5 minutes or even 10 minutes and a bit longer, or even maybe a whole workshop. And you've got an interesting way of understanding how people behave and how to communicate to them in a way which maximizes, first of all, gets their attention, but maximizes the message that you're trying to deliver. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, because my background is in psychology. I studied psychology at Monash University in Melbourne because I'm from Melbourne. And one of the things that got me interested in psychology is the patterns of human behavior and how the brain works, especially, on the unconscious level when, the guard is down and how they actually take in the world. And what I noticed with pitching is that as soon as the time duration is shortened, whether it be 30 seconds or 60 seconds, it becomes increasingly difficult for people to make their message nice and concise, but at the same time, provide that impact that draws people in. And that's where I saw my opportunity to have a niche in this communication area.
Outstanding. Yeah, I know often been at networkings where people get an opportunity to speak and they really don't make the most of it. They sort of get up there and they sort of stumble over their words and say, hi, I'm such and such, and this is what I do, and I'm with this organisation. And what you do, what you're saying is that 60 seconds could really be the most impactful 60 seconds that you can deliver simply applying what you teach.
That's exactly right. I don't know if have you heard of Frontier Academy with Clinton Swain?
I haven't.
He doesn't operate in WA. Yeah, well, Clinton Swain, he's a world leader in creating experiential and immersion type education where he creates games that simulate a scenario to learn about business principles or speaking principles and so on. But one of the primary things that he teaches is that stage time equals wealth time.
Wow.
And if you think about it, the context of the stage is actually very different from a regular conversation. When you're on stage, you get an opportunity to spread your message to many individuals at once.
Yes.
And if you are able to perform well, meaning that you're concise with your message, that you are gesticulating in congruence with your words and all those performance aspects, then you are elevated, beyond your current status, is what Oren Clough in Pitch Anything calls your local star power.
Yes.
Because you're able to dominate this particular space. But on the flip side of that, because you are given all these extra bits of elevation, there's heaps of scrutiny as well attached to a poor performance, more so than anything else. And people will make automatic assumptions about your competence, your trustworthiness, based on your performance, because that's the context.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah, I've read that book, Pitch Anything by Oren Clough, and it definitely is a must read. And the interesting thing is, of all the people who've read that book, you're the person who's decided to focus on that niche and really master what he's taught, and other authors who have specialised in that. And I really believe that that's where the money is. If you can just walk anywhere and command the attention of whoever it is, whether they be a multi-millionaire, billionaire, business owner, entrepreneur, if you can just walk in there having the tools to be able to communicate to them in a way where they just drop everything and focus on you, that is an outstanding path to wealth and an outstanding skill to have. Wouldn't you agree?
I definitely agree. I consider it to be a integral part of personal development. There's a reason why people say public speaking is one of the top 3 fears, sometimes even more so than drowning or burning. I remember one time they said that it was number 1 in terms of people's fears. Mm-hmm. And when you are able to overcome that particular hurdle in your life, to be able to speak well, to be completely authentic, in front of a large number of people, I view that as a level of growth attained. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's a real art to what you do, because I know I'm involved in Toastmasters, and getting up and speaking to people, it's definitely a quality that it's important to have. Though what you do with your pitching model is that there's a definite structure to the way that you communicate to people, isn't there, in order to capture that local star power.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely a structure, and what I like to bring to the table is a more scientific approach.
Yes.
Because that's my background, and I find that a lot of pitch experts out there, they're all very good public speakers, but perhaps they're not good at educating because they don't address one portion of the population, the rational, logical-minded. You and I have done e-disc and disc training before. It's those C energies that require that evidence-based approach. They just haven't dwelled into that. And what I like to do is bring a 3-prong attack where I have the experience in competitive public speaking. And just to divert, I want to congratulate you because I saw the award that you won for humorous speech, wasn't it?
I'm in the humorous speaking final for the district, and I'm also in the international speech final for the district, which is a great privilege. So thanks, Eric. That's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really have to highlight that because I know how competitive that environment is.
Everyone's an awesome speaker at that level. They're all brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like as I was saying, I bring the competitive public speaking, I bring the contemporary coaching aspects like NLP and all that, but then I also bring the more traditional academic approach. Yes. And my structure involves a lot of principles that are built off things like behavioral economics, neuroscience, and then I create a principle-based process so that you're not locked into these standard structures that become cliche. Because I'm a big believer that as soon as someone can see the structure behind what you're doing, then it becomes very cliche and people start to turn off and be put off by what you're doing because they know that you're just implementing a method. It's almost like you're being, 1980s used car salesman sort of techniques.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Excellent. So what is the process by which, I know obviously that it's very in-depth, but if you could break it down into a step-by-step thing that you would teach someone who was signing up with you, what would you do? What would you teach them, perhaps over a series of weeks or so?
Number one thing that I teach, the first secret to public speaking success, preparation.
Yep.
I can't highlight that more because even though it seems like a self-evident truth, almost beaten to death, time and time again, people come up to me and ask me for help. But then as soon as I ask them the first question, how much time have you put into your pitch? They always say, I was doing it in the car, or I was doing while I was sitting down waiting for my turn. 90% of the time, they just don't see the value of utilizing the pitch space as a primary marketing tool. So they have to put in the preparation. I can't hammer that point enough. So guys out there, please prepare. The masters prepare everything, whether it be stage movement, hand gestures. I'm sure, Roger, as a competitive public speaker, you tend to make sure you have everything down pat. I can't highlight that enough.
And definitely, people think, it's a lot of talent. I'll tell you what, there's so many talented people, but they don't see the hundreds and hundreds of times that I've run those speeches. And one of my mentors, one of the world champions, Ryan Avery, he just said, practice. So there's definitely, you can have talent, but it needs to be, refined by a lot of hard work and discipline, which is what you're saying.
That's exactly right. If you've ever read Robert Greene's book, Mastery, he talks about how, this whole idea of a genius, right? It's just a misconception by the layman because even someone like Mozart, who was considered a genius in classical music, and of course he was naturally talented and very proficient for his age, it wasn't until his 10th year or 10th symphony, I can't remember what the measurement was, until he got considered or given the stamp of approval with the general public that he was a master. He had to go through 10 lots of trials before he even got there.
Wow.
So it wasn't an instantaneous thing. Yeah.
And I heard something about... go on, keep going.
No, go ahead.
I heard something about the artist Prince and Barry Gibb people like that from the Bee Gees. You know, we think, oh, they're so famous, they're songwriters. But Barry Gibb and people like Prince, they write a song a day. Like, they try and bang out a song a day. And just, you know, that's lyrics, melodies, recorded, you know, in its very basic form. You know, that kind of discipline. So that's over 300 songs a year, whereas most, you know, artists would probably get, you know, even if they're in that industry, would probably maybe do 20 or 30 songs a year. So you can see the work ethic behind these so-called geniuses, and they are geniuses, is obviously that work. And you're saying apply that to Pitch Anything. Sorry, continue. What were you going to say?
Yeah, absolutely. It's genius, but the elements that make up genius has a fundamental attachment to preparation. In order to even have the definition of genius. I think that's what was highlighted with the experiences of these individuals, and in that book by Robert Greene, that genius, an element of genius, is preparation. So just to continue on what we were talking about before, so first off, I always make sure people understand the value of preparation. And then the next thing that I get people to think about is actually, what is the purpose of their pitch? And it goes beyond just what am I going to be talking about today, or what element of my product or service that I have to offer today. It's actually thinking about the context of the environment that they're in.
Yes.
So some people get into a networking group, and this is the majority of people that I deal with, you know, small, medium, and micro businesses that run the networking circle, and they have to go and do a pitch. Sometimes you might invest time in a networking group where your service and product might not be what is wanted from the group. However, part of your pitch and building up your profile can be about just asking for a strategic alliance, maybe even sharing something personal so that you form relationships, so that one day maybe something will change in your business where you can offer some value to the people in the current group. So it has to get out of that mindset of just selling their service or fishing for direct customers. It's about building the relationships, or even asking for other things on behalf of your other alliances. You need to think beyond that small square of just what can you get out of it.
Outstanding, and everyone wins, and that's definitely a wise model of business. Is really building those friendships and relationships for the long term, and not thinking about, you know, what can I get from this person in the short term. It's thinking about what can I give this person, how can I serve and offer this group of people, and knowing that, hey, maybe down the track we'll do business, or if not,
exactly,
maybe I'll do business with their friends or family, or they'll recommend me. But the relationship is so important, and I love, you know, like you were so exact, you're so correct in saying, you know, sometimes the stuff we can teach in self-development can seem very airy-fairy. But when you, and you know, you talked about the C energy and the DISC profiling, and if you're a lay listener, the C energy is like a person who's very cautious, scientific. Accountants will have very high C energy. Engineers will have a very high C energy. If you're in business, and you're very successful, it's highly likely that you'll have a high C energy, which is a cautious kind of approach. And you need to understand evidence, you need to understand statistics, proof, you need to understand all that about that. So if you're in business, and especially if you're a coach or a business person trying to pitch and communicate to businesses, you need to understand the science behind it, because you may be very well talking to a business owner or a CEO, team leader, someone who's a decision maker who needs to understand how it works. And the beauty of what you do is, I know that you know how the brain works and how human beings work, and what our drivers are. We have these unconscious, powerful drivers that lead us. Would you like to tell us a bit more about those?
Yeah, so just to go off again, Oren Clark's book, because I find that he set up the scene, like set the foundation for really great pitching by bringing it into the pop culture and mainstream.
Yes.
Yeah, and he got his ideas from neuroscience and a bit of behavioral economics as well. But what he's talking about is the three brains in the body. I'm sure many of us who've studied human behavior know about the three brains in the body. There's the reptilian brain, or the croc brain as he calls it, the mammalian brain, and then the neocortex. And each level is just representative of our human development, or the animalistic development, where you have low order reasoning at the croc brain, more high level emotions in the middle, and then